1 Corinthians 12, 8 to 11. For one person is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, and another the message of knowledge according to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, and to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another performance of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discernment of spirit, to another perfect kinds of tongues, and to another the interpretation of tongues. It is one and the same Spirit, distributing as it decides to each person who produces all those things. I'm now on tongues, and I've already established that the tongues in the Bible are not what the other person can understand, and that's how to square it with 1 Corinthians chapter 14. People with the other kind of interpretation will tell you that it's language that is learned. They struggle with some verses in 1 Corinthians 14, and people that says it's language that is not learned, that is not understandable, they also struggle with Acts chapter 2 to see how to square it. This is the way I've squared it. I've squared it that what happened in Acts chapter 2 was two things happening at the same time. One was the speaking of language that's like people are saying now that people don't understand. And the second, another thing was happening, which was their hearing. So they heard them. It's different from they spoke their language. They heard them speaking in their languages and glorifying God. That's what they heard. And we can go into a lot of explanation. I don't know if you'll be able to get into a lot of it now. But I was saying before yesterday that Paul wanted the Corinthian church, not us, Corinthian church, to situate gifts of tongues in the right place. And I was saying that the whole context of this gift is that it benefits others, and it's just telling you, guys, your tongue is not benefiting anybody unless you can interpret. Otherwise, it's not benefiting everybody. He also said, do not forbid speaking in tongues, meaning that don't cancel it out and say it cannot happen, it must not happen, it should not happen, it cannot happen, don't do it. No, do not forbid it, but situate it properly. So we see his emphasis is how do you benefit the whole church? And he said, okay, fine. You really want to excel in gifts, then pray that God will be able to prophesy, because you are speaking as somebody else understanding, and you may not have knowledge, you may not have the wisdom, but you can prophesy and somebody else will benefit. And he listed some of the ways you can benefit there, and I've already talked about prophecy. That was a careful concern of Paul. He is making something clear that you can be excessive. The place you give tongues in a body can be excessive. And he's not saying don't do it at all. He's trying to give us an understanding of how to properly put it, giving us like a guide. He said, okay, if we want to speak in tongues and there's no interpreter, then keep silence, right? And he also said the spirit of a prophet is favorable to the prophet. He's trying to create a control here. He's trying to put a control, put some limits, put some guidance, and he's only zeroing in on tongues. And you see his explanation. It said, if somebody comes into your midst and all of you are just speaking in tongues and you have like 30 minutes and everybody speaking in tongues and that person spoke in tongues and you think something has happened, he said, nothing has happened because I've not benefited from anything that just happened. He said, another comes to your midst and he's using an illustration here and speak 5 words in understanding than 10,000 words in tongues, and it's just going and on like that, right? So that is that for the gift of tongues. What about interpretation of tongue? I think interpretation of tongue is one thing that we really don't have example of in the scriptures, except when Paul mentioned it and said somebody speaks in tongues and there is no interpreter, meaning that somebody that will give a meaning in understanding of what has just been said in the spirit, then let them be quiet. And he also said some things about speaking in tongues. He said you are speaking to God. He said if you have a tongue and there's no interpreter, then you can speak to yourself and to God. He said you are building up yourself, you are doing something to yourself, but the church is not edified. He's not trying to shame every song speaker. He's trying to tell them, yeah, you're doing something, just know how to position it properly. And I know you are so zealous for gifts, therefore aim for this gift that can benefit the church. You see. God bless you. See you later.